You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Homefield Apparel.
Hello, Hoosier fans, and welcome to another episode of the Grace Berger Show, a production of Assembly Call on the Back Home Network. I'm your host, Jeff Marlow, alongside here with Grace Berger. And Grace, I'll give you an opportunity to say anything you want to the fans as we start the episode.
Yeah, I mean, we just, we haven't talked in a couple weeks, and there's been a lot of exciting things that have happened since then. So I'm excited for a great episode tonight.
Yeah, so let's kind of go back to a couple of weeks ago. We talked, you were coming off that stretch with, you'd played a lot of games. And when we last talked, I believe it was the Tuesday after you got back from Iowa. So you still had to go to Maryland and in a game that I thought you guys played pretty well, but just another game where you kind of maybe, the schedule caught up to you a little bit. I mean, I think you finally finished up like 10 games or, like 10 games in 25 days at some point like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was something like that. And obviously Maryland's a hard team to finish out with, no matter, what your schedule has looked like before that. They're really talented. So, I mean, it was a great challenge for us, and we were hoping to get some momentum going into the Big Ten tournament. Obviously that didn't happen, but I think that Maryland game provided us a lot of good film and a lot of good things that we could work on kind of heading into that Big Ten tournament, which I think was beneficial for us.
And then you also, but that was the only game you played from Monday until you started the Big Ten tournament. So you actually found the schedule finally at least gave you a chance for some relief, at least from a conditioning standpoint.
Yeah, we got 2 full days off after that Maryland game. So that was something that hasn't happened since, probably Christmas. So it's been a while. It's, been kind of a whirlwind since our COVID break. But like you said, it was a nice break for our legs, but I think also just mentally kind of getting away from, the 1 day preps and the, the challenges of the Big Ten play. So it was a nice break heading into the postseason.
You bring up an interesting point, the mental side of it. First of all, have you, at least in your college career, had you been in anything close to that type of schedule that you'd really kind of went through the entire month of February?
I mean, the Big Ten schedule is usually pretty brutal, just in the sense that, 2-3 times a week you're playing some of the top teams in the country. Anybody can beat you on any given night. So it's always, I think, a lot. And I think that's an adjustment for a lot of, freshmen especially. But as far as, having the 5 games in 10 days and whatever it was, that was definitely something that I had never experienced.
And like you said, anybody in the Big Ten is dangerous. We saw that a little bit even in the Big Ten tournament. But you guys really didn't catch any break in the schedule. I mean, you played some of the top tier teams during that stretch. So, it was really, there was a real grind mentally and physically, wouldn't you say?
Oh, for sure. I mean, anytime you're playing, best teams night in and night out, I think it can kind of wear on you. But I think, where it benefits us is it really prepares us and every other Big Ten team for the postseason. The regular season, that's what it's really all about. It's just preparing you for the postseason. And I think, the challenging season that we had with the Big Ten, I think it did just that.
And so that finished up the regular season. You guys fell to the 5th seed for the Big Ten tournament. But between then and the tournament, I want to congratulate you. You were named first team All Big Ten again. And I believe Nicole and Mac and Alexa all were named to either like a second or an honorable mention team. So quite a few honors handed out to the program this year.
Yeah, I think all 5 starters actually got, some kind of recognition, which certainly isn't, the norm. If you look across the league, to have 5 players, get recognized by the coaches or the media, I think it just, shows how much talent we have on our team. And I think it really kind of excited us to see that all players get recognized like they should have, and make us excited for a deep run in March.
And so What was kind of the mentality? Did you guys talk much, and not just even the staff to you, but just among yourselves? What was kind of the attitude going into the Big Ten tournament before we even talk about that? You were coming off that rough stretch. You'd lost to Maryland, which knocked you down to the 5 seed. So what was some of the conversations maybe you had among yourselves about going into the tournament?
I mean, yeah, it's always, hard to lose, especially when you lose 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5 or whatever it was. I mean, it's tough, but I think our mindset going into the big tournament was one that was really good. I think, instead of getting discouraged, we used those losses as opportunities to learn and really prepare ourselves and to prove that, we belonged at the top of the conference heading into the Big Ten tournament. Obviously, we didn't, quite do that, but we got, a couple of top 15 wins, a couple really good wins. So I think, our mindset was just to kind of prove people wrong, prove to ourselves that we do belong in that conversation.
And we'll talk a little bit more about this toward the end of the episode, but right before the Big Ten tournament started, the NCAA had released their top 16 list, and you were still in that top 16 list. In essence, you were going to be a 4 seed. For those who don't know, they're listening or watching on the podcast. The top 16 teams are guaranteed to be at home. 1 through 4 seeds are guaranteed to be at home in the NCAA tournament. Was that something that you guys were aware of going in? And did that give you, did you feel like you had to, that first night out, at least on Thursday, that you really needed a win to solidify?
I mean, I think all of us knew whether we talked about it or not. And we didn't really talk about it. The coaches didn't bring it up, but we knew that we had to beat Maryland to really make sure 100% that we'd host. And that's been a goal of Coach Morin's and a goal of ours, obviously, because it provides such an advantage just playing on your home floor for those first 2 rounds and not having to travel and being in front of your own fans. So we knew going in that we kind of needed to get the job done against Maryland and definitely Rutgers in those first 2 rounds to really solidify it.
And so start out, you played Rutgers on Thursday, and that was a game you guys kind of pulled away with in the second half. And so, and got that win, but then you had as you mentioned, you had Maryland then on Friday. So before we really talk about the Maryland game, Big Ten tournament, a conference tournament as a whole is a whole different beast. Whatever conference you're in, especially when you're in the situation you're in, you're trying to play, you're playing every day. There's not much rest. There's not much time for preparation. So maybe give our listeners a little bit of an idea of what it's like to come off a win on Thursday and then try to prepare for basically playing at the same time on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of time to celebrate. Our games were, I think, around 2:00. So, by the time we got back to the hotel, it was 5:30. And then, we took a shower and just came right down and started watching film of the next opponent. So there's not a whole lot of time to celebrate in a tournament that's kind of structured like that. And it'll really be the same in the NCAA tournament too, even though it's a little bit more time. It's pretty much the same kind of, once you win, that's great, but you have to move on really quickly and start watching film and getting ready for the next opponent.
And so getting ready for, did it help? I mean, obviously, you've said this before on the show, the conference teams know each other so well, but it did help just a little bit knowing that you just played them 5 days, a week ago, literally a week ago that, on that Friday. Did that help you guys?
It probably helped both teams just in the sense that you might not have to, scout quite as much because you're so familiar with each other, what each other runs, what the tendencies of the other players are. So it was certainly, I think, an advantage for us, but at the same time, it's an advantage for them too. So they know our tendencies, they know our plays, they know a lot of our play calls. So, it's, an advantage for us, but at the same time, I think it kind of cancel each other out.
Gotcha.
The Grace Berger Show is presented by Farrall Wealth. Farrall Wealth was founded by former IU All-Big Ten defensive end Greg Farrall, who is now experiencing IU all over again as a parent with 2 girls who are juniors in the IU Media School, interns at the Cuban Center, and own their own business. And Greg learned trust and integrity while playing for legendary coach Bill Mallory, traits he's worked hard to instill in his girls. He also learned how to game plan. Farrall Wealth uses these principles to help high net worth individuals and business owners pursue financial success. Wealth planning is their passion, so you can live yours. Their fiduciary plans include investments, insurance, taxes, executive compensation, and charitable giving in this lifetime and beyond. Like any good team, the IU women's basketball team, for example, you need to plan and work the plan. Well, what is your plan? Contact Farrall Wealth through all socials at Farrall Wealth and their website, farrallwealth.com. That's FARRALL wealth.com. Farrall Wealth is a proud supporter of IU Athletics. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisory firm, member FINRA SIPC.
And we know that obviously you guys won. Hopefully everybody that's listening knows that we won. That you guys won. I wasn't part of it. But they, what would you feel? Did you feel like there was a key moment in that game? And I was only able to watch a little bit of it because I was actually at work. So I was trying to keep an eye on that and also run my classroom. But did you feel like there was a key part of the game that really, was a different, I hate to say a difference, but really where you felt like you got the momentum back or going the way you wanted it?
I think we felt like we were playing really good basketball throughout. One thing with Maryland in the past that they've kind of done to us is they pressured us early. I think kind of frazzled us from the jump and really, took the first punch at us. We've been down 10 points, 15 points there before in the first quarter alone. So I think, where we really set the tone was from the jump. We were the ones that threw the first punch. We were the ones that came out aggressive. We're getting 50-50 balls. And then obviously it helped that we knocked down a couple shots. But I think really from the beginning, we just established that, we came to play. We weren't going to let them punk us like maybe they have in the past.
I like that. Yeah, and is that something that I won't say the coaches say it that way, but was that maybe an emphasis going into the pregame about really trying to take it to them from the get-go?
Yeah, that's always an emphasis when we play Maryland because, again, we know how talented they are. We know how they like to pressure us from the beginning and kind of frazzle us from the jump. So I think that's an emphasis every single time we play them. But last Friday in that game, we kind of got down early and we're just never able to really climb our way back into it. So it was definitely, I think, they kind of tried to pump us up in the locker room and get us ready from the tip.
Yeah. And so then with that, you got Ohio State, who was the one seed in the tournament. And you played really well in a game that, they're really, you guys, I don't want to say controlled, but you guys really played well from the get-go in that game. So, and Ohio State, again, not to take anything away from them, but as a team that you'd beaten earlier in the year. So maybe a little bit of at least a feeling that, you've been there, done that with Ohio State.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we remember that game, but we also remembered that, it was in December. So it was really early. They've gotten a lot better since then, obviously. They had a great season. They've gotten a lot better defensively, I think, is where really what we saw it. We knew their press was a lot better. That was something we were really worried about going into the game. But I think we kind of, saw where we had an advantage in the first game, and we're kind of able to use that to our advantage. They play four guards a lot of times. So we knew with Alexa and KB, Ariel, and obviously Mackenzie that we kind of have a little advantage on the inside. So I think that's why we were able to control the game in the way we did.
And before we get to the Iowa game, I want to talk about a few of the other kids because you've talked about some of them on here. And first of all, Chloe Moore McNeil has had a really good run here, kind of the last month of the season. Really played well, some double-figure games. So just maybe, what have you seen from Chloe here in this last month that you think has really started to click? I mean, obviously we can see her doing it in the stat sheet, but what you see off the floor or on the floor that maybe we don't see that's kind of helped her click?
I don't think it's necessarily that's anything's clicking because I've seen her do that every day in practice, really, since she was a freshman. It's hard to, not notice how talented she is. Obviously, her speed, getting to the basket, and she's a really, really good shooter as well. I think early on, maybe in the games, that just wasn't translating. She had a lot of shots going in and out at the beginning of the season, but we've seen it every day in practice. And I think, finally, I think it's just her confidence has kind of converted over to the games from practice. She saw a couple go in. I think, recently, I think that really helped her confidence. And now she knows that we need her heading down the stretch and in March. And
so Keandra didn't play for most of the Big Ten tournament. She was battling with an injury. Hopefully she'll be better and ready to go for the NCAA tournament. But was the Ohio State game, I've lost track, and I know I should have looked this up before we start. Was Ohio State the game that Lex didn't start? Or was it the Iowa game?
Yeah, that was Ohio State.
Yeah, because she had been battling a little bit of an illness, correct?
Right. Yeah.
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 But again, I mean, you've talked about this. We've talked about Alexa several times, but just seems like when Lex is playing well, it just seems like the whole team flows well.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Alexa at the four obviously creates a lot of mismatch problems for other teams. You know, she can shoot the ball. She can obviously go down to the block and get some easy baskets down there. And then I think, you know, defensively is where she really helps us night in and night out, whether she's making shots or not. She's one of the best defenders in the Big Ten. She doesn't get, you know, the credit that she deserves, but I think, you know, it's hard to deny her impact that she has every single game on the floor.
And it seemed like that in between Maryland and the Big Ten tournament that Mac was able to kind of get her legs back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, every single day, Mac's getting, you know, just a little bit better. Obviously, taking a month off and then dealing with an injury, I mean, that's hard for anyone. So I think now that Mackenzie's, you know, gotten some rest, but also been able to get some reps in practice, some game-like reps in practice. I mean, she's really talented, so it's not going to take much until she's back to 100%, and I think she'll really be ready for the NCAA tournament.
And then, unfortunately, just those darn Hawkeyes you got on Sunday in the Big Ten title game, but that was a game that I was not able to watch, but followed it online. It looked like it was a really good battle back and forth.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's how our last Iowa game was too. And then on you know, Sunday it could have gone either way. And obviously, you know, unfortunately they just made a few more plays than we did down the stretch. But you know, that's basketball. Obviously, they're a really good team, a team certainly capable of making the Final Four. So I think, you know, even though we lost, and that's certainly frustrating to lose to them 3 times, believe me, we're all very frustrated about it. But I think really at the end of the day, it's a really good thing. It'll really, you know, keep us battle tested as we enter the NCAA tournament.
And like I said, everything I saw online, kind of as I was following the game online, some Twitter feed, it really the job that Nicole was doing on Caitlin Clark was talked about quite a bit online.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Caitlin Clark is one of, you know, if not the best player in the nation, especially offensively. And so, you know, we've seen Nikki frustrate people before, frustrate other point guards before, but to see it on that stage, frustrate a player as talented as Caitlin Clark, I think it just proved, you know, kind of to the whole world what Nikki was about and how much she means to our team.
Yeah, unfortunately, you guys, like you said, didn't get the win, but congratulations to you and Nicole, who were both named, I believe, to the all-tournament team. And so I know you want the wins. I know you want titles. I know that's what we've talked about that before. That's the whole purpose of why you're playing. But it has to be, at least for us as fans, it's nice to see the players in the program being recognized. So congratulations on being named to the all-tournament team.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So now you've got a week off. Let me rephrase that. You've got some downtime. Nobody gets a week off in college basketball when you're still playing. But so what's this week like? We're talking for the fans who are listening on the podcast. This is a Thursday evening. And so the selection show will not be till Sunday. So we're still a couple days out. So what's this week like when you don't know who your opponent's going to be yet, but yet you're still trying to do some things to stay in shape and other things. So what's this week like for you?
Yeah, I mean, this week, I think the way Coach Warren kind of described it is about us. So about, you know, us getting better. And I think, you know, we did have a good run in the Big Ten tournament, but we obviously still ended up losing. So there's obviously a lot of things we can go back and film and watch and get better at. So this week is all about things, you know, whether that's offensively, defensively, or individually, getting in some individual work, just things that, you know, we need to do to get better. And then obviously once Selection Sunday, you know, once we find out who we're playing, that'll kind of flip. And we'll be a little bit more focused on our first opponent. But for now, it's just a really good time to really just get better as a team.
Support for the Grace Berger Show is brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel, where they have one of the most extensive collections of vintage IU apparel that you will find anywhere. And it's not just IU apparel. They have over 100 colleges and universities, and what they do is they go back into history and they pull out old vintage brand marks that haven't been used in a long time, but that still look really cool and that have this really great kind of nostalgic appeal, and they pull them into modern day, and they've created such a great niche because, the actual material that their stuff is printed on, the shirts, the crew neck sweaters, the hoodies, it's really comfortable. It holds up when it's washed. And then the logos all look just so cool. It's just such a unique niche that they have. And you can go to homefieldapparel.com. Again, look through over 40 items of IU apparel. IU is their original school, and so that's what they have the most of. But you can also browse through all of their other colleges and universities as well. And when you're ready to purchase, if it's your first time there, use the promo code HOME, HOME. That will give you 15% off your first order. So again, it's homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code HOME, HOME, for 15% off your first order. Now back to the show.
And if you are selected where most people think you're going to be, you will host for the first time in program history the first 2 rounds at Assembly Hall. Have you guys talked about that at all? Is that something you just right now don't want to think about just because there's a bigger goal ahead of you?
Yeah, Coach Marlow talks about it,
Okay.
quite a bit. Like I said, I think earlier, it's such an advantage to be able to play on your home floor, to sleep in your own bed, to not have to travel, and then obviously to play in front of your fans. That's really tough for opposing teams to come in. We've been in that position before where we had to travel. So for them to have to come into an environment like that, it's just a huge advantage for us to really get some good momentum heading into the, Sweet 16.
And I was trying to think today, and I couldn't think of it in my memory, and I didn't go back and look it up on the website. But your freshman year, where'd you guys go for the first 2 games?
We went to Oregon, so we played Texas the first round, and then obviously Oregon the second.
Yeah, and played very well in the first game. It didn't play badly in the second game, if I remember right. Just Oregon was at home.
Yeah, I think it was that they were at home, and then that they were one of the best teams.
That was
of women's basketball. So they.
I was going to say, Inescu was still there, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was, and she had some really good pieces around her that are all in the WNBA now. So it was really cool to play against them.
I'll bet it was. So you've been through this a little bit. Then you can kind of go back to your freshman year and to a little bit last year. But last year was really different because you guys all kind of got potted down in Texas, and you really were all just there. So we probably won't get to talk again between now and the tournament starting. So once you know who you're playing Sunday night, what will kind of the next few days be like?
Once we find out who we're playing, we're just focused on that first opponent. Obviously you can't overlook anyone. So we'll just, be watching film on them, going over their sets in practice, and really just familiarizing ourselves as much as we can with them. Because we are so used to playing teams that we're so familiar with, it is a little different to play people that you know nothing about. So I think we'll watch probably a little bit more film than we normally do just to get ready for them.
And I was going to say, I'm glad you brought that up because you're probably likely to play a team from one of the conferences you don't normally play. Mm-hmm. And so I think you've mentioned this before on the podcast. You guys can basically pull up anybody's film pretty quickly, correct?
Yeah, any team, as soon as we find out who our play, one of our assistant coaches will kind of get the scout, be in charge of the scout. So they'll go back and watch, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those teams' games and really just go through them and clip things for us, whether that's their plays, whether that's their players' tendencies. So as soon as we find out, our coaches will be on it, and the next day we'll start watching film.
Yeah, and we want to wish you the best of luck. Like I said, I doubt we'll be able to get you in for an interview next week before the tournament starts. So I got just a couple of questions. I know this isn't an Ask Me Anything episode, but so far, and we hope there's more, obviously way more memorable to come. But what's kind of the most memorable game looking back through the beginning of the season, the Big Ten tournament? What's been the most memorable game for you?
Obviously the wins in the Big Ten tournament, were good, but I'll say, for me, beating Maryland for the first time, in our history, was really special just because I've been a part of a lot of teams where we, get beat by 15, 20, 25 points. And they were really the team that everyone in the Big Ten has always been chasing. So I think back in January, it was early on in the season, just beating them, I think it gave us a lot of confidence, and it was a special win for me.
Yeah, and you brought this up before. The Big Ten is just such a talented league, especially everybody in the Big Ten can beat anybody, as you said numerous times on here. But when you really looked at the top 6, 7 teams in the Big Ten. There's so much talent.
There is. I mean, we have, multiple teams that I think have the chance to go to the Final Four, which a lot of conferences can't realistically say that. So it's something, it's really exciting to be a part of the league. Like I said earlier, it really gets you battle tested, which is why I think you see a lot of teams have a lot of success from the Big Ten and then NCAA tournament.
Before I ask my next question, you talked about the teams going deeper. There are still some conferences who are playing their tournaments this week. Have you been watching any of those games?
Yeah. I mean, I always watch women's basketball when it's on. So I've been watching a lot of that. And then obviously there's a lot of men's programs going on too. So I like to watch men's basketball as well.
Yeah, I was only able to watch a little bit of the men's game today, and so it was again because I was at work. But yeah, and I was going to ask you how much of the men's tournaments you get a chance to watch.
Yeah, we had practice during the one today. And I think when I left, they were down by 17 points. So I was kind of, bummed out. But then obviously someone shouted out the score and we were all of a sudden up 1. So we watch them. We'll watch them tomorrow. We support them just like they support us.
Yeah. And we've talked a little bit about that before, but for people who haven't listened to the podcast as much, there's been some interesting, like I've seen Xavier Johnson and a couple of the other guys, especially tweet out things about the women's program. So, and you've said this before, as you go and watch the men, you're supporting them. It really is kind of a one family thing for IU sports, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And then I think, especially us with the men's basketball team, I mean, we share the same facility. So we're around each other all the time. We see each other all the time. They see us practicing, we see them practicing. And so, I mean, we're really, close knit. We are obviously cheering for each other hard. So, we support every sport, but I think, our relationship with them is extra special.
Okay. So kind of the last question I've got for you here, we talked about the most memorable game maybe you'd like to have back.
I mean, I think I'd have to definitely say the championship game. I probably will always, for the rest of my life, wish that I could have that one back, but that's an easy one.
Okay. And if it wasn't, I appreciate that answer. That really wasn't a fair question probably, but they're just, those are things that, yeah. And I'm trying not to get too sentimental here, but it's just the memories though, or something, not every player gets to go to a Big Ten championship game. I saw some things on Twitter from some of the former players, both relatively recently going back to the 80s, who were really excited about the fact that you guys were in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah. I mean, obviously for a lot of years, Indiana women's basketball, I don't even think we're, really making it far in the Big Ten tournament. So just, I mean, anytime we can be one of the top teams in the conference, I think it's just special to look back on, how much work we've done to really, help make Indiana women's basketball one of those biggest names in the Big Ten and also the country.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about this. You guys are doing a great job of that, of making people aware of the IU women's basketball program. Just a couple of final thoughts or do you have any final thoughts? And I'll kind of wrap it up here.
I mean, I think we're just really excited heading into the postseason. We're, very confident that we're going to host. And so, we're hoping to have a great turnout. Maybe people that haven't been to a women's basketball game before at IU can come out and really see what it's all about because, playing on the biggest stage in Assembly Hall, I think is just really exciting, no matter whether it's men's or women's basketball. So I just encourage everyone to come out and support us. And I think it's going to be a really good time.
And I know you don't know exactly when you'll play yet, but do you happen to have an idea of what would be possibly the first day you could play?
I want to say it'll be next Friday.
Okay.
Would probably be the first day. Yeah.
Okay. And I think there was what I saw online. There's already on the IU website, the IU athletic website, you can go on and start it in case you do host, which we all think you will now that you've made the run you made, that you can start ordering tickets for those games, even though they don't know exactly times or dates yet. So for the people who are listening, we encourage any of you who are within the Bloomington area, a reasonable drive of the Bloomington area to, or even make it a vacation, make it a little mini vacation, a Friday through a Sunday, if it works out that way, to go watch these young women play and to watch the Hoosiers play because it's a fantastic team. Grace, I just want to tell you, I've enjoyed doing this with you. We still have a couple more episodes, but like I said, probably going to be really tough to get a hold of you, or not hold of you, to get you into next week before the tournament. So I want to wish you the best of luck in the tournament, and we'll talk again whenever we can. But I want to wish you the best of luck. And I just want to tell you that for us who have been doing the post-game shows and stuff, we're really excited about what you guys have been doing, and want you guys to know that. And hopefully you'll tell the rest of the team that as well.
Yeah, I will for sure. Thank you. We appreciate you all.
All right. And this has been the Grace Berger Show. For Grace Berger, I'm Jeff Marlow. Until we talk again, remember, go Hoosiers.